What is up, everybody? You're witnessing the first ever growing tutorial, grow guide, or whatever you want to call them, by the Unlocked Farmer. I'm going to start off strong here and show you all how to grow green beans. Green beans are just one of those plants you got to grow. They have to be in your garden if you're serious about gardening or farming or whatever you want to consider it, because they just keep giving as long as you keep picking. That is one of the main rules of green beans. You can't just leave it sitting there. It's not a thing that you leave to ripen. I mean, I guess it's not really ripening. Oh my god, there is a big ass dude right there, staring right at me. I'm not even kidding. If you can see him, he's right there. And he's got horns. Yeah. You're witnessing a buck that is about to fuck me. Real hard right now. Real hard. With his antlers. So I'm gonna go over here and act like that didn't happen. Okay? We're gonna act like that just didn't happen. We'll walk away. Yeah. Anyways, so green beans. Let's talk about green beans. And if you're wondering why I'm walking around like all crazy, no, it's not because I'm a crack addict. It's because I keep getting destroyed by mosquitoes because I live in a swamp, damn near a swamp. And there's just rampant mosquitoes everywhere. It's nuts. If I don't get out here, if it's like high noon, it's cool, okay? But if it's like now, where the sun is up pretty close to the horizon, it's no good. It's no good. You can't do anything out here unless you just like to get bit up. But anyways, green beans are the gift that keep giving as long as you pick them. Now, green beans, I will tell you, they're very easy to grow. And they grow well in most climates, like zone 4, I believe, would probably be the lowest. Zone 3, I mean, you can grow it in the summer, obviously. I mean, you can grow really anywhere. Zone 3, zone 2, in the summer, as long as it's like above 50, 60, as long as it's above like 60 degrees, I think you'll be good. They might grow slower if it's that cold, but I think you'll be good. They do very well in the heat. I will give you that. They do very well in the heat. Now, when you're going to grow green beans, you're going to want to sow your seeds probably in about a ½ inch, maybe an inch deep. They will sprout up. They don't give a shit. Like, you could probably put them down pretty far and they'll still find a way up. You can't do that with most seeds, but with green beans, they're pretty well at it. They do pretty well. So plant it like that, and then plant it about 3 inches to 5 inches. I suggest 3 because you don't want to like lose space like that. You want to, if you're serious about a survival garden, you do not, and I repeat, you do not want to sacrifice. Like you don't. Well, it's not really sacrifice. You don't want to like, just lose that space. You know, like the space is just sitting there waiting for something to grow. And then you're gonna like space it even more for what? Just cram as much vegetables as you can into one area. This is the point. We got to grow as much food as possible. That is the whole purpose. And green beans, you can cram a lot. All right, 3 inches apart. Put them in rows, and each row is about a foot apart. I'd say about a foot, foot and a half, foot. I mean, you just don't want to. Like I said, you don't want to have a bunch of wasted space, right? The whole idea is to be as productive as possible. And the way to do that is to cram as much plants as you can, as long as it's not too cramped, because that is a problem. Then you'll have airflow problems, fungus can start growing. But for the most part, and that's another thing I wanted to just kind of touch up on, is green beans, they don't really have a whole lot of issues. Like there's a lot of plants that will definitely be messed up and with a fungus disease or something like that, or bacterial disease. They can get messed up by that. But for the most part, green beans, every year I've grown them, I've never seen anything wrong with them. They've fallen over, they've grown all wonky and stuff, but they've never had any sort of disease. And I live in a pretty humid area, so that speaks for itself. Like a very humid, like it's to 80%, 90% humidity, even 100% humid. I don't know if I ever got to 100, but I'm sure it's gotten there. So it's been pretty crazy here, and they've taken it just fine. So if you're in a dry area, they might even like that even more. They might thrive even better. Well, as long as you keep watering them. And that's another thing I want to touch up on. They do take a beating. If you forget to water them a little bit, they do take a beating, but don't want to do it too much. I mean, you want to give them some water, make sure it's not bone dry for days. But yes, if you forget to water them one time, it's okay. They will take a beating, and you can just pick it up the next day and water them. Now, as far as planting them in right soil, so soil composition, as long as you throw in some compost in there and just mix it up a little bit, they should do pretty well. It depends on how bad your soil is, honestly, because I cannot answer that. I mean, it's not a straight answer. It's not as easy as you think, because everyone's soil is different depending on your geological area. I mean, it could be terrible clay soil, it's just pure clay and nothing can grow because the water just kind of sits in it. Or it could be too sandy and water just drains right through and you got to water like every hour. You know, it could be anything or anything in between. So your soil could be absolutely terrible. I'm looking at that deer. It's right over there. It's freaking me out, guys. What the hell? Usually deer just run away, but no, not this one. But anyway, soil. Keep my eyes peeled. Soil. Throw in some compost. Make sure your soil is just at least mildly loose and draining, and you'll be okay. Throw in some compost. Fertilizer, really, you just need compost for this one. Some plants, if your soil is really shitty, compost might not just cut it. You might have to add a little extra oomph. But for green beans, they are a nitrogen fixing plant, so you don't really need the best of the best soil. As long as it has some compost in there, which is easy to get. You could do some manure if you have your own compost pile and it's all composted, and you should be good. Throw that in there and you'll be good. For green beans, it's not that bad. They'll take it. They'll take whatever they got and they'll work with it. Obviously, the more nitrogen, because they do love nitrogen and they do fix nitrogen, like I said, the more nitrogen you give them, the better they'll do, because I mean, they rely on that, not just for leaf growth, but for the fruit too, and phosphorus. Nitrogen and phosphorus, you want to definitely keep an eye on those levels. Now, if you have pretty good soil, you should be fine. Like, you really don't have to take much care of it in the nutrient department. If you have pretty good soil and you just want to pop some green beans in your garden, it's not that hard. Like, you just pop them in and they'll do just fine, just fine. And also, like I said, nitrogen fixing. What that means is they'll actually take nitrogen from the air and put it into the soil. And once the green beans have long been harvested and they're all dead and gone, you'll be left with a better soil than you had before. Granted, and I'm coming to my next point, you mulched it, all right? Oh my God, I'm getting destroyed by mosquitoes and potentially a deer. Like I said, you gotta mulch it. Don't just leave your green beans and just plain dry dirt, just nothing on it, just dirt just on the ground and then the green bean plant. Because the sun, I'm telling you, it will scorch that dirt and it'll turn it to crap, and your dirt and your soil will be terrible. It won't work for you. You got to have some mulch down so that you can build that soil, because mulch does help build that soil, and I'll make a video about that too, specifically. Mulch will build that soil, the green beans will build that soil, and you'll have better soil for the next growing season. Now, my final thing is growing, or like I said, canning and jarring. Like, I want to make this point. I like green beans because you could can and jar them and preserve them, and on top of that, they produce like no other. They'll keep producing all summer long, all season long, and just keep giving you, like I said, if you keep picking it. So, with all that said, green beans are a must if you are serious about gardening and having a self-sufficient garden or farm, and that you can pretty much rely on your own food grown. I would choose green beans as one of those in your arsenal. Just saying. Definitely choose green beans. All right. Super easy, low maintenance. Well, I wouldn't say low maintenance. It's kind of it's not as simple as you think, because you got to keep picking them. But other than keep picking them, which is just kind of like you got to get yourself out there to do it, because I know I had trouble myself. There's so many that it's like, oh, and then you got to look for them, and they're all buried in there. You got to find them. It's like a treasure hunt. But that's really all I have today, guys, and I'll leave you with just some little shots of my green beans themselves. I'm about to go cut them. You can, oh yeah, before I go, pruning them, or not pruning them, but cutting the green beans off. Scissors, pruners, whatever, just snip them off, probably about halfway up the stem, and you're good to go. So that's all I have to say. Here's some shots of the green beans.